Hey, everybody. Welcome back to The Truth About Death and Dying. I am Sheila, and I am being joined today by my very good friend, Alicia McPhail. Hi, Alicia.
Hi, Sheila. Thanks for
Thank,
having me back.
thank you for coming back. We have a lot to unpack with this story of yours. Um, I just wanted to, first of all, I forgot my disclaimer on the last one. I'm not an expert in anything. I like to say that but I do have experience with death and dying and that whole process. And it's my goal with this podcast to, enlighten other people, to help support you if you're going through a similar situation. My dad was dying of cancer. Alicia's mother died from dementia. I'm hoping to bring on other people that can maybe you resonate with, and I feel like with your story, Alicia, that there's so many people that I'm sure are going to watch this and go, oh, thank God I'm not the only one that felt this way, that went through this,
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
felt, and as you know, you can feel so terribly alone. And especially you being an only child and all of that weighed on you. I can't even imagine what that was like for you, especially, towards the end when and we'll get into this too, but when you were coming back and forth from North Carolina to Maine, trying to take care of your mother the best that you can.
Yeah.
We have a lot to unpack for sure. But one thing we talked about in the last episode was the fact that you didn't do a funeral, you didn't have a memorial. Why? I was just curious why you didn't do that.
Um, I'm not sure. To be honest with you, that was nothing because of my mom not accepting her diagnosis right up to the very end. I mean, she even fought dying. There was no discussion of, there was no plan. There was no, I want to be cremated. I want to, there, uh, and I'm not sure that there were enough lucid moments anyway
Mm-hmm.
to even at that point say, what do you want? I know that money was really hard by the time
Yeah.
she passed, which is another, we could do a whole podcast on
And
that.
funerals are not cheap. They're not
Well,
cheap.
right. Well,
They're not
right.
cheap.
And I mean, even finding a place because my stepfather, being able to find a facility to put her in,
Mm-hmm.
they're not they're not covered by a lot of by
Yeah.
Medicaid.
Right.
So expensive. And so, and yeah, and my mom had my mom didn't have any social security or anything like that. My mom had no benefits coming in.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it's funny. I got mailed a check from where our moms worked
Yep.
after she passed because I guess she must have paid in at some point to like a
Okay.
benefit for
Okay.
$24.
Oh,
I
that
couldn't catch it. I still
that
have it.
doesn't even get you a meal to celebrate her life, really.
No,
Not in
no,
this day and age.
no. She must have paid into some type of like
Yeah,
Maine
retirement,
educational. Yeah,
401k,
yeah.
something.
So I
Yeah.
know, and I'm not saying that he didn't do it. I just don't know. Um, he when after she passed, um, he got his remission of cancer back very quickly, and he passed it within a year. So I just don't even know if there was the time to. I don't know. I don't know if he knew who to contact. Friends wise, it
Yeah.
all just fell under
So
the.
your mom dies,
Yep.
and there's no there's no coming together. There's no
Nothing.
gathering of family
No.
and friends to celebrate her life. So
No.
you're just like, okay, back to
Yes.
business.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really hard.
Hospice. Hospice called me a couple of times down here, and that wasn't a healthy conversation because I was angry at hospice as well. And in fact, I said, you don't want to talk to me because I'm angry. And they said, we do. And I said, well, then I'm going to, and that's again, I'll share my perspective. And
Okay.
I did, but that's a different,
So
hospice called me twice. And I can remember grocery shopping and I was in the parking lot and I talked to them twice after they were checking on me. But that was it. There was no, I had moved down here to South Carolina by that point. Um, And that was all there was to it. There was no, in hindsight, maybe if I had not moved and I was still in Maine when she died and I hadn't moved, the timing was really shitty.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time, I think it was a blessing. I don't know, because
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have moved if I knew that he had
Right.
cancer. I would have
Yeah.
stayed, um, which he wouldn't have wanted me to do, and Mom wouldn't want me to do. But if I had not moved the same month that she died, I would have pulled something together, at least with her closest friends,
Right.
And then I've said a couple of times, I'll do something when I get back home. I just want to hear her friends talk about how much they love her. I just
And and the thing is, even though she's been gone since
right,
2017,
right.
it's not too late to do it.
It's not
Truly, when when you come home for a visit,
right,
I mean, you can plan it ahead of time, and I would recommend you do it. I think it'd be
right.
beneficial. I think it would be therapeutic for you. I think because as I was talking about on a previous episode, when my father got his diagnosis, I was like, Dad, we're gonna have a party
I
while you're
know. I
still
that.
yeah, like while you're still alive and you can hear all the nice things people want to
Yes,
say, because it's unfortunate people wait till you're dead
yes.
before they
A-
say nice things to you or about you right to your face. So, but
And Sheldon was at home
yeah.
in the house that he and Mom lived in a
Oh,
hospital
okay.
bed, in a hospice. Yes, his ex-wife actually came and was his caregiver. It was
He died
wonderful.
and he died at
in
home.
in the
He died at
in
home.
the house that Mom. Mhm. And what was really really heartfelt is that he retired from Lane Construction. I mean, he
Yeah.
started there
You
when he
said
was
that.
18 years old as like a flagger.
Wow.
And all his buddies, all of his buddies came daily, and would sit around and talk to him, light him a big joint, and he smelled. Well,
You said he was a hippie.
oh yeah, I mean, and it helped. That's when he could sit up, and that's when he could be talkative. But they would all come during those
That's
last
nice.
4 days and
Yeah.
talk and tell those stories. And it
Yeah.
was so wonderful to hear and so good for him. And it was sad at the same time. These grown 60 and 7-year-old men, they'd hug him and cry a little bit. But, I was just in the background watching, loving it, but also mourning. My mom had just died, mourning that same, like, man, it was in comparison, the contrast of just such a difference.
Yeah.
I felt jilted. I felt robbed of that from my mom.
Deserved, and I think understandably so. I think
Yeah.
Um, I want to just shift gears, and we were
Yes.
talking off camera a little bit about when you really
Knew there was a
discovered
problem.
the truth about your mother, and it's such a heartbreaking story. Like, but I
Yeah.
think it would be really beneficial if you could share that if you feel like you
Right.
could.
Right. Sure. Well, I guess I do want to inject some humor here.
Sure.
I shielded my children from a lot of this. They were young enough, especially Chloe saw a lot more of it, because she grew up more with Nanny. She saw more of the drinking. She saw, so Chloe understood a lot more of it, but the other two, excuse me, they did not. Um, they didn't, they didn't experience, my mom and the mood swings or, I guess the alcoholism. But it was Julia's birthday. This is just funny. So it was Julia's birthday, and I told you, I think I stopped doing parties. Like,
Hmm.
come over and we'll do. But I also didn't want to deprive my mother of seeing Julia on her birthday. So after gymnastics one night, Julia had gymnastics 6:30 to 7:30. I said, we'll swing by Nanny's so she can say happy birthday to you. So I swung by. She literally lived right behind the gas station there on Union Street by my house.
Hmm.
There's like a Rite Aid, an old
Yep.
gas station, where Beecher Park is.
Yep.
Well, she lived right there. And they were hungry, they were tired, but I said, I know she'll want to give you a hug on your birthday. So we go in, and Mom's upstairs, and Sheldon's like, honey, the kids are here. And she's like, oh, great, I'll be right down. So she comes down the stairs, comes around the banister with a robe on backwards. tits wide open. And and the kids are like, there to give Nanny. And she's like, hi. I'm like, whoa, mom, whoops. Come on, let's go in the living room. We'll put the robe on the right. Like she had it on. Somehow she put it on, but it was down, which I can't. She's like, hi. And I was like, whoops, we're just going to beeline to the living room, fix that. And the kids are like, we'll never forget that. I mean, they didn't understand,
Right.
but
But you know
I
what? For the kids to have a happy, like, laughy
right.
memory of their
So there's that
that's
spark.
priceless. Yeah, that's
And
priceless.
that's like the last memory that they have of her.
Well, it made it, but it probably brings a smile to their face when
It
you
is.
think
It's
about it.
funny.
So
Right.
yeah,
That was a good one. So when I really got the full picture of how bad things were, because as a caregiver, my mom was a very, very proud woman. I never saw my mom without makeup. She was always nails done. Like my mom was always very
put
well put
together.
together.
Yeah.
Yes, she was very proud. Um, she took very good care of herself, and even through all of this, I mean, up to this point, I never saw a physical cue that things weren't right. Nails were still always painted, hair was still fixed, a lot of ponytails, and my mom was never a ponytail girl, but she is getting in her early 60s. Um, I did notice that sometimes she wouldn't wear a bra, and that was disturbing to me because that's not my mother either. And she was kind of a well endowed woman. And I would tease her and I'd be like, Mom, where's your bra? And she's like, I don't like them. They're not comfortable. And I'd look at Sheldon and I'd be like, Sheldon. And he's like, I don't mind it. And I'd be like, Lord, like, she would die if she knew that,
Yeah.
but
Saddle
up to,
those girls. Saddle
yeah,
those girls. Yeah.
but that is not my mother. I mean, anyway. So where I got thrown into the discovery of what was being kept from me was that Sheldon had his cancer had come back. He had started with prostate cancer back when Mom was not in the state. A few years prior, he had gotten a colostomy bag, and he was in remission. But then some stuff had come back, so he had to go to Mass General and have a very significant surgery. Of course, Mom was not in a place to go and be a support person, so I think a neighbor went with him. Um, and plus, they had the dog that was like my mom's child, and a guinea pig that I had given my mom, our guinea pig, because she liked it so much. And I thought that it would be good company for her. So they had a guinea pig, and that was kind of the excuse that we used is just, she'll stay home, take care of the dog. My uncle, again, my uncle Bruce, stayed there as well, just for company with her. And he was going to just be there with mom and Uncle Bruce. And so things kind of took a big turn for my mom, I guess. Now I understand what happened. It was, you don't change routine. When someone is suffering with dementia, they rely very heavily on the same face, the same plan. So when things are different, it kind of takes them off kilt. It's like a full moon. My uncle, he also at that time, he kind of lived a very simple hermit life. So he wasn't prepared at all. None of us were left like an instruction list or, hey, these are things that you might see. So when my mom in the middle of the night would start escaping, going outside, fighting with my Uncle Bruce, saying horrible things to him out of nowhere, it threw him for a loop, and his mental health started to really suffer. So he was calling me a lot during my job. I'm working. Again, I'm still trying to juggle my own life at home with 3 kids, snowstorms, trying to shovel. Like, I couldn't be much of a support. I certainly couldn't have her come stay at my house. I wasn't home during the day. Um, and I just didn't want it, to be honest with you. I couldn't take that on. At that point in my life, I could not take on the care of my mother. Period.
And I think it's important to know your limitations. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'll just take it. Like, and if you had
Yeah.
taken that on top
Right.
of all the stuff that
Oh
you
my
had
God.
going on,
Not after, not no. I mean,
yeah,
this came out of nowhere with the things that Uncle Bruce was telling me. I just thought she was losing her mind. I didn't know she had dementia. I just thought she was losing her absolute mind. Like
yeah.
she's cracking up. She's cracking up. He told me one time he came down in the middle of, he came down for breakfast in the morning. He said she wasn't sleeping, which now we know is common. He said she just getting really ugly at nighttime, which now we know is, they call it what, sundowners?
Yeah, sundowning.
Sundowning.
Yes.
She wouldn't eat, or she would only eat certain things. And again, I just thought she was spoiled rotten, that every single morning Sheldon had to drive to the main street McDonald's and get her a bacon, egg, and cheese on a bagel every single morning. I thought, well, aren't you a spoiled little something? I just thought that's what he did to pamper her. No, that's all she would eat. That's all she would eat. Then it went to a certain type of Italian at Fairmont Market, and that is all she would eat. Nothing else. All of a sudden, she didn't like chicken breast. All of a sudden, she didn't like salad. Like, things started to become, but I didn't know any of this. See, I just thought they don't feel like cooking anymore. And I'm like, you're not sick of a bacon, egg, and cheese on a bagel every day? And if it was burned, he'd go back and get her another one, because it was that important that she eat. But he wasn't forthcoming with her diet, her appetite. Like, her brain isn't communicating other food things to her anymore. None of this was being communicated. I just thought she was spoiled and being pampered. I didn't know that. I'd come over and her counter would be full of Edmund's donuts and Little Debbie's. And I have never in my life seen my mom eat anything other than like one Kit Kat at Easter. She didn't eat junk. I told her she was very well fitnessed. But all of a sudden, their kitchen counter was nothing but sweets and chocolate. And I'd be like, who the hell's eating all this? The once a month I'd stop by. Oh, your mother likes a treat once in a while. And I'd be like, Mom's eating this? Well, that's another thing that changes is the sensory part of the brain. And I'm sorry, I don't have the technical
We're not
term, but
doctors.
there is a technical term that
Yes.
enhances the sugar. You crave sugar.
Receptor.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. In
My
fact,
dad was my dad was the same way. My dad
yes,
was the same. Like and that was
bags
one
of
thing.
Reese cups is all
Yeah,
at the
he liked
end.
having some sweet stuff. It was better
Yep.
than like
Yeah.
the
Anything else.
traditional food.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then I'd see cases of Ensure. And I'd be like, why is there so much Ensure? But I don't know. He had a colostomy bag. I figured they were for him. No, it's because she didn't eat. Nothing. All of a sudden, she didn't like anything, which was weird. She wasn't a picky person. My mom actually had quite a extensive palate. Like, we ate things on a random Tuesday, like Coquille Saint Jacques, and things I couldn't even pronounce. Most people would have Hamburger Helper.
Yeah.
But so I assumed it was Sheldon's Ensure. So Uncle Bruce was falling apart. He's calling me saying, I can't do this. I'm losing it. I knew that my mom had been seeing or saw for headaches a man named Dr. Singer, who was the head of neurology at Acadia. I took a break from a presentation I was doing. I went outside the building at Wayfair. I looked up Acadia phone number. I asked to speak to Dr. Singer's office. I got a message. I left a message and I said, you don't know me. I'm Jeri Corson's daughter. I'm sure you're going to say that you can't talk to me, but I'm not going to stop calling until you do. This is my phone number. I got a phone call back. Well, how can we help you? I said, I think my mom is having a nervous breakdown. My stepfather is very sick. I don't know where to take her, what to do. But things aren't right. I need someone to look at her and tell me what's wrong. I don't know if you got her on an antidepressant. And that's the other thing too. I do want to say, Mom always struggled with her nerves, anxiety, or, I know throughout her life, she self-medicated with alcohol, or, when the alcohol subsided, then it was anti-anxiety or Valium or things like that. I know that she had those things on hand. But again, that with muscle relaxers and whatever else she was on, who knew? I just knew something was chemically amiss. They said, "Can you bring her today at 2:30?" I said, "I'll try." I mean, I said, I don't know. What do I tell her? Because she's going to think it's weird. She doesn't even know that I know that there's a Dr. Singer. Like, we don't talk about things like this. Like, she said, "I don't know. Maybe just tell her that Dr. Singer has an opening, or her appointment got rescheduled or something. I don't know." So I did. I went over and I said, "Hey, Mom, we're going to, and it was a struggle to even get her in the car. I walked her to the car. I got her in my car, but even she couldn't even buckle her own seatbelt. And it was the cognitive of it was, oh, oh, okay. Like, and I thought, wow, she can't even do the motion, the turning, the grabbing. Like, it was all just very childlike, the way that she kind of got in the car and sat there. And so I made conversation on the way over there. And I said, I don't know. I guess it's just, I lied. And I felt so awful because I'm lying to my mom, and she was lucid at this moment. She wasn't like crazy. And of course I didn't say, "Mom, were you escaping in the night? Were you leaving?" I didn't want to cause any problems. And so we get there and we go, and I had a conversation with her in the parking lot before we walked in. And I remember asking her if she was scared of dying. And I don't know why I asked that. I just said, "Mom, we've never talked about this." I said, "But are you scared of death?" And she was like, "I don't know." And I said, "Well, we've never talked about, what it's like. Do you believe in God? Do you believe in, like, what? Do you think you're going to go to heaven?" And she was like, "Well, yes, honey." And that was like it. I was like, okay. And I'm trying to wipe my tears because, again, like, I'm just so confused about everything that's happening. And that was the end of that conversation. It was she didn't really elaborate with much. And so we go to Dr. Singer's office. And as we walk in the waiting room, and again, my mom has always been very poised and very collected. And this is her to everybody. "Hi, hello, how do you do? Hi," to everybody we passed. "Hi, hey, hi." Like she knew them, like we were in a group therapy.
Wow.
That's not my mom. So they call us into the Dr. Singer's office where we meet with the PA or his assistant. And this is the lady that this is what they do at every appointment in the memory, when you see Dr. Singer, who is the head of the neuropsychology. So there's a series of questions that they ask on like a 10-point scale, like the depression scale, I guess, when you go to the screening. And depending on how you do on that is a number system. And that's how they rate where you're at, which I think is, I think that should be changed. Because there's more than just questions. And again, my mom presents very well. And again, her caregiver, which was Sheldon, who would go to those appointments with her every 3 months, is not going to argue with the love of his life, who's going to give him complete hell all the way home if he pushes her. Because she still could be very mean. And she would still, I still would hear her say things like, "You're an obnoxious pig," like just like that. And I'd be like, "Why? What'd he do?" Just, he knows what he did. But she'd have no idea what he did. Like she could be very mean. So again, I don't blame him for not, and he loved her. Like he didn't want to admit that she was worse. So he just let her answer the questions and he sat there. Well, now it's Alicia in the chair, my mom, and they say, "How are you today, Jeri?" "I'm good, thanks." "Do you know what today is?" Yeah, I believe today's Thursday." "Yeah, okay." So they're check. "Do you know who the president is?" "Yep, she knew who the president was." "Do you know what month it is?" "Yes." So those 10 questions, she got off the bat.
Scored.
Then until they asked her, "Well, what do you like to do for hobbies? What hobbies have you done lately?" And she said, "Well, I've been working on a book. I write a lot." And I looked at her. And I was like, "Excuse me, just one second." So this is the part that Sheldon or a caregiver may not feel comfortable doing. And I was like, you do? You write, Mom? Well, yes, I write. I've been working on a book. In between when the guys working on the house aren't there disrupting me, but they know when I'm working. They know what I'm writing. And it's so funny because Gilbert, which is my father, her first husband, Gilbert likes to say I'm flirting with him, but they know I'm not. They
Oh
know
no.
that they're a bunch of good guys, and they know that. And I'm saying, so my dad says that? Yes. And he's a wonderful man, I have guilt, and she's going on about how she's writing a book. And I'm looking at the little lady making her notes, and I'm going, and the whole time she's standing up and she's adjusting her pants and she's sitting down. And she's standing up and she's sitting down. And I mean, not just over and over and over. And I'd be like, Mom, you okay? Yeah, I was just looking for my water. And I'm like, it's right here. Oh, okay. And then she'd stand up and she'd sit down and she'd stand. I mean, and it was other questions like that, that I would call out, and I would say, that's not true, Mom, and then Dr. Singer, the lady said, okay, well, I'm going to go. I'll be right back, Jeri, and she said, well, can I go call Sheldon? I really need to talk to Sheldon. And I'm like, Mom, Sheldon's in the hospital right now. She's like, I really need to talk to Sheldon. Can I call Sheldon? She repeatedly. She's like, well, why don't you try to go call Sheldon? And take her in the other room and call, and I'll talk to Dr. Singer. So I brought Mom in the other room, and I called Sheldon, and I said, can you talk to Mom for a minute? We're actually at Acadia. And he said, yep. And I put it on speakerphone, and she said, hi, baby. And she was so happy. And he was like, hi, honey. And she's like, I'll be home in a few minutes, and we'll talk, and I love you. They want me to stay, but I'm not going to. And he's like, okay, honey. And we went back in, and Dr. Singer said, I think we need to have her stay for some observation. And they took her.
They kept her.
They kept her, and we walked down that long hall, and I went out the exit, and she tried to come with me out the exit, and two people said, no, you're going this way straight. And she's like, no, I'm going with my daughter. And it was hard. And I said, no, Mom, you're just gonna stay for a little bit here. And and they locked her in like this observation room with the people that they put, suicide watch, and it's like a 48-hour, like a closet. You're in like a closet room. And until they decide whether you can leave there or you get put up on the floor there, the 5th floor or whatever it was, the lock floor, where everybody gets committed.
Yeah.
I guess there's just one floor and that's where she stayed for, God, I don't know, Sheila, 6 weeks. She was there a long time. I mean, Sheldon came home. Part of the reason she was there is because there was no one at home for her I couldn't have her.
Yeah.
But she went through a lot there. I mean, there was a lot. At one point, I was on a conference call with about 8 different people, and me, different psychologists, different neurologists, on what to do with her at this point. Because even in that unit, it's not a memory care unit. It's not. It's a mental ward. She'd have a roommate that was screaming at her because she was psychotic. So I'd go in, and the roommate was screaming, "Get away from me!" And and I felt terrible that my mom was there, but she couldn't be anywhere else. One time she fainted, flat out, hit her head because her blood pressure had dropped so low, because she wasn't eating, because they would bring food trays of
Shit she didn't want to eat.
stuff she didn't think she liked, nor did she have. They won't give you a knife. Okay, so it has, but nor could she even use I'd be like, Mom, you like salad? I really don't. I'd be like, since when don't you like green beans? Like, I haven't liked green beans my whole life, Alicia. You know that. That's not true. So she wasn't really eating, but All the people do is come, bring the tray, pick the tray up. No one's
Right.
writing down, gee, she's had 2 bites of yogurt. All she's really eating is the Reese's peanut butter cups that Alicia would bring in when she goes to visit 3 times a day. And I would go to that hospital because there was nobody else. I'd have to go checked in, lock up my stuff, lock up my purse, my cell phone, my keys, go up, pat it down, lock behind me, go in, get my mom, walk her around a little bit, see if she'd want to color. Like she took a down, like I'm seeing for the first time everything that Sheldon saw all the time, because he's not showering her. He's not
Right.
fixing her hair, paying her nails.
Right.
So I'd be like, should we color? And I'm watching my mom try to color. It was unbelievable. But at the same time, they have her doped up because they're trying to keep her calm because she's so confused. Like her whole life now has gone from where's Sheldon? Where's Sheldon? Where's Sheldon? Where's Sheldon? Like that's all she kept saying is where's Sheldon? Where's Sheldon? When am I going home? I'm going home today at 2:00. And I just say, no, you're not, Mom. And this went on until eventually Sheldon was released. He came home, and they would not let her home. They did not let her out until Sheldon had a plan of how he could care for her at home because they knew of the extensive surgery that he had.
Yeah.
They also told him at that point to start contacting social services for adults,
Yep.
and submitting the paperwork, I guess, that you can submit for Medicaid and all of that to start looking at memory care units, of which he never did. Because it was in that moment that Sheldon decided he would never, ever put her in a home. After seeing her there,
Yeah.
she would die. He would take care of her until he said, as long as she knows who I am, Alicia, I will never do this again.
I think that's a good place to
Yep.
stop today.
Yep.
And but obviously we're going to have a few more of these episodes because we have so much more to do. But thank you so much for sharing that, and we will pick this up again, and maybe we'll do part 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't know. We're gonna do as many as we need to, because this, I think it's really it's interesting, and I think it's going to be helpful to people. So thank you so much.
It's helpful to me. So thank you.
Well, good. And that's, and for me too, when when I'm telling my stories, it's therapeutic for me as well, so, and I hope that some of this stuff will be helpful to other. I think it absolutely will be helpful to people that have gone through this or are in the midst of going through this.
Yeah.
Because sometimes just having someone validate, your feelings, or like, okay, like just not feeling alone, that's a big deal, So I thank you so much. I love you, and
Love you.
we will talk again soon.
Yes. Okay.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.